Shut up, compressor. So while we're painting up the major secondary color elements of the P-47M, so the fireball on the cowl, the fireball script on the forward fuselage, also want to go ahead and take care of the rudder, which I've honestly been procrastinating about. Now, the 56th Fighter Group had 3 squadrons, the 61st, 62nd, and 63rd, and towards the end of the war, I believe from 44 on, each squadron had its own squadron color painted on the rudder. Now, it started out at some point, I think in the States, where they were painting them on the cowls. Then the group kind of clustered around having red cowls, and so there was nowhere for the color to go, so they went on the rudder. 61st had red, the 62nd had yellow, and the 63rd had blue, but it wasn't insignia blue or anything like that. It was some other blue. And frustratingly, as I've mentioned before, for all the fighting about what colors they used for their camo for the P-47Ms, nobody seems to give a shit about the blue on the rudder. In fact, the decal sheet for this that I'm not really using much of literally just says it's some kind of medium blue, which is not helpful at all. So I decided to mix my own. This is kind of a bastard mix of some guns. Let's see, what is it? C65 bright blue, some MRP 120 PRU blue. Come on, focus. And a little bit of 348 blue black, just to kind of darken it and desaturate it a little bit. So let's paint the rudder. And I'm not really going for much variation here. The rudder seems to be pretty solid from the photos I've seen. So that looks like a medium blue. I'm kind of basing this off of the one good color photo I have. Well, I won't call it good. I'm basing this off of the one color photo I have showing a 63rd rudder. And it almost looks, I say almost, it almost looks like what the 352nd Blue Noses had when they had the Bs before they got the darker late 44 onward blue nose. It's kind of the, looks similar-ish to their lighter tone, which from my understanding was PRU blue, so I think using PRU blue in here makes a ton of sense. Getting a little bit more saturation, because according to the photo it has way more saturation than the light blue. Cool. We have ourselves a rudder. Just gonna make sure we got the so I don't dare shove that on there right now, but we can go ahead and see how it compares color-wise. It's definitely its own bit of business. So I just recorded a whole damn thing, and then I realized it was not recording, so we're gonna do this again quickly. So to tackle this, the first thing that we have to do in terms of repairs is to make some additional masks. Now, I've had a few requests to do a video on how I cut masks And that's really not going to happen because the silhouette that does the actual cutting lives inside, and I don't really have a camera rig set up in there or anything like that. The family would probably look at me funny if I was narrating while it was doing its shit. The dogs would start barking, just general chaos. So, heading up to that, I already had all the masks for all this shit designed, right? I don't need the full insignia to repair the circle part of this insignia, and most of the damage or issues that need fixing are on the circles. The star or the bars on the outside they're rectangles, they're easy to deal with. What I did for the circles is I would basically take, say, this insignia, for example, select it in Illustrator, and look at the size. It shows you the width across and the height from the top to the bottom of the circle. You basically select the height, say it's like, I think these are 0.825 inches. Create a new circle, 0.825 inches, all around. Good to go. You drag it over the insignia just to double check that they overlap properly. Then you pull it off on its own. Do that with the top one, the bottom one, the sides, everything. Hide all the layers of all this other shit. We don't need the fuselage codes anymore. We don't need the full star and bar. We don't need the flame up front. So you're left with a couple circles, draw some, grab the rectangle tool, draw some boxes around them, send it to the cutter. The cutter, I use Silhouette Connect to basically port straight from Illustrator to the Silhouette. It costs money, but at the same time, it's a one-time thing, and it's a lot easier than dealing with all the fucked up file formats. So, sent the circles in their boxes over to the Silhouette. Selected, I believe it was blade depth 2, speed 2, force 4, something like that, with overcut on but turned to 0. And then I just hit cut or print or whatever the dialog box says. The result, about a minute later, after it did its thing, and it's cool when you get to use a Silhouette enough, you can kind of hear what it's cutting based on the noises it makes. Boxes sound very different from circles. And we wound up with a sheet of circles. So basically, we got 2 fuselage ones here. This is the upper wing, and then I went ahead and cut 2 underside ones, anticipating I might have to cut something in half or be a bit weird with it. So that's that. I need to put those on, do shit with that. I also need to get out putty, I believe, to fill these little lines right here a little bit. I don't want to obscure them and whatnot. But we're around a lot of delicate stuff that I don't want to have to mask and spray again. So take it easy in here. I'm thinking probably a single pass with 3M Super Red should help kind of get that to where it needs to be. Once those are taken care of, we're going to identify all the stuff that needs painting, that PRU blue mixed with light Arctic gray, and just knock those out in one go. Then we can move on to the insignia blue. The insignia blue, in addition to the various roundels and shit that need fixing, we also need to paint the fuselage outlet doors. As you can see, I've already painted the light blue, the camo part. It's now going to be a matter of masking these off precisely so they match up with everything going on here. I'm still thinking through how to hold them steady, but fortunately, if you look at the insignias here, they align with this sort of one consistent panel line that runs across. And so, yeah, right here at the bottom of the U, right at the bottom of that little corner of the N, that line is sort of a through line, so I can thankfully use that to mask from like here to here, and then just mark it off on that. I just need to figure out a way to hold that damn thing steady over here. Yeah, and I think I need to maybe go in here and mask off this blue, respray this white a bit because we got that little hook in there. And I need to make sure that that's fully aligned. It looks like it mostly is. So let's get started with some of that instead of figuring out where to go beyond that. Okay, this is going to be dicey. We're going to have fun. So I just ordered these foam tipped sort of swab things off of Amazon the other day, and they're pretty cool. They're basically like Q-tips, but they don't leave lint. They're also not quite as pressury, but as you can see, they hold solvent quite well. But I do feel like I need to add a bit more to this side. Whew. All right, let that sit for a few minutes. Okay, so I've got everything pretty much masked off and good to go. And before I get into the insignia blue, I'm going to start out with a little bit of night camo black just to restore balance where I need to. Okay, now we're back with insignia blue. Yay, a real roundel. Still have to deal with the shit in the outlet doors there, but let's go ahead. Let's swing this fucker around. Get these guys off. Okay. Insignia blue is done. And give this a couple seconds to set up a bit, then we're going to mask and we're going to spray a bit more white. Alright, now we get to do the fun stuff. Painting inside the opened outlet doors. Okay, we got one side down. Let's get the other side. Let's take this masking off. Some fun lifting down there on the blue that I'm going to get to fix. I was already lifting a little bit, so it was a known thing. Where the fuck are the die crane fly? Cool, so that looks pretty good. Let's go around the other side. So we're working on the starboard side of the aircraft back here. Huge pain in the ass. Being right-handed and having this wing kind of sitting in the way the whole time. Not a big fan. Oh, there's that side. All right. That is looking nice. Now, next up, before I go gluing these bastards in, I have to finish the cleanup up here, and I'm going to save that for another night. Maybe as a tiny quick preview here. Let's go and see how these guys look. Installed. So I'm putting some tape on the tips of the tweezers here so they won't damage the paint. We can get a decent look at what's happening. So there we go. Not too bad. All right, time to shut down for the night, and we'll pick it back up next time I get to the bench. Okay, so touch-up time continues. We've got the insignias masked off here to add a little bit more, as you can see. So as you can see, right around the bottom here, there's that little sliver. There's another tiny little sliver sort of around the top. So basically, we're just going to fill those in. Going to go with night camo black first, then insignia blue, standard operating procedure. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Why did this happen? Yeah, so basically we got two reasons. First, I didn't spray the whole thing insignia blue before putting down the mask. So there's that. There's also, if you look at the shape of the fuselage here, it's round obviously, but it's also getting smaller as it goes sort of towards the back. And that just confuses vinyl, I suppose. Before I forget about it, let's go ahead and do a little bit of surface repair. I've already done some filling here. Okay, we're loaded up with insignia blue. The burnishing keeps lifting up on this, so we're going to try to go fast. Okay, so we're going to give it a second, and then we're going to remove the whisker biscuit from the mask, but I think we're in a pretty good spot. Okay, it's time to go in and touch up the lighter blue. I've got a couple areas here. I've masked off the upper portion of this insignia because there's a few tiny little goobers right in here. I don't know why the PRU blue and the light Arctic gray combo seems so much thicker, but it is. Go back and clean up that edge a little bit. All right, so I'm adding a little bit of MLT to it. Try to thin it out just a bit. I don't know why it's like that. Okay, that might be helping. Let's find out. Oh yeah. So we've got those things sprayed. Everything's kind of getting back to normal. Time to mix up some dark blue, do some touch-ups in there, and then we can take a little bit of a break before we move on to more stuff. Okay, we've got the mixture for the dark blue set up here. So I basically decided that I'm going to kind of remask the fillet here and paint it anew. And because of that, mainly because I noticed a couple of areas I noticed a couple areas along the fillet edge where it was really maybe a masking job too far. So I think that is about where I want to be. All right, got one more little bullshit thing to fix. This is going to be dicey. So my taping to protect the fuselage codes left a bit of a line. That'll do. I think that obscures it a bit.